used to vote on who they wanted, like it go to thing.
It turned into sort of like The Voice as such, where like it was all the music. And talking about the Late Late Show, I think it used to be on the Late Late Show. They used to all perform, and then people used to cast their votes and all the rest, and then it'd be like, oh my god, who's going to win? Oh, so we used to have our own mini Eurovision here before we sent them off to the actual Eurovision.
Kind of a pseudo X Factor that started. What was it in 2002 and went on till 2008. And it was like, everyone could just enter, and then it was like, you had to call in or use teletext to vote.
Oh yeah, this was like in the 80s, kind of like they had, and it was, I think then when they started saying, oh well, we could start winning this shit, and we could start, like, this could be good for the country. And they kind of went, you know what? Fuck all this amateur stuff. Let's get professionals to do it.
Exactly, yeah. Because this is the thing as well. I mean, people have to realise the actual Eurovision itself was a massive production across the whole of Europe. So not only were you seeing all of the different, sort of bands and people singing their song, the host country used to always do all these little inserts of sort of like, say if it was Iceland or something like that.
It was like a massive tourist promotion.
Yeah, exactly. So they'd have all they'd have all their little inserts kind of going, oh, well, actually, let's do it, seeing as it's Ireland. We'd be like, oh, look at the Cliffs of Moher, aren't they spectacular? And then they'd have another little clip like, oh, look at Galway, and look at all, we're playing our bowrones and playing our fiddles, diddly-eye, come to the Roisin Dove. And it'd be kind of like all these little tourism-y kind of things and all the rest.
Well, it was a more hopeful period as well, kind of like, particularly with Europe, because like Europe was still relatively, or the EEC was
and it was all about uniting and let's come together and let's celebrate. We're all very different, but we're all part of the same gang, and like, look at what we're doing, guys. Well, so let's come visit.
Because like at the time, like, I mean, everyone knows about Ireland now, but at the time, like, Ireland was just this little tiny island in the fucking,
right off,
a tiny island,
but right off the coast, and no one was kind of like, what's over there? Let's tell us a bit about you guys. What are you up to?
I mean, even in the 90s, we were like, talk to people from France, and they'd be like, oh, you too.
And that was it.
Yeah, and it was like, no one knew really much.
You too, and leprechauns and diddly-eye, and that was it. And it's like, let's show you, let's look at Temple Bar. So it was like, look, we're a little bit more than that. So that's what, like, the Eurovision did that, kind of like, really for us. Yeah, we've also the Guinness factory. But then going into the 90s, I suppose that's when, like, fucking shit got serious, like super serial, for sure. And so with the three wins, with Linda Martin, with Why Me, which was written by Johnny Logan, or was it? I don't know. We'll say it was. We'll give him credit for it. And Eve Kavanagh's In Your Eyes, also written by Johnny Logan. and the Rock and Roll Kids.
In fact, since the start of... Since 1965 to this day, all songs in the Eurovision Song Contest for Ireland were written by Johnny Logan.
Yeah, just every single one of them. But like the whole thing, we're looking at, there was like some guy who was a producer on RT, and RT is the National Broadcasting Service over in Ireland, so it'd be like NBC or
it's
BBC.
Radio Telefís Éireann, which means Radio Television Ireland, basically.
They're very creative with their naming. Yeah,
they were very intent on we're going to do high production things. So when Linda Martin won it with Why Me, when your man was talking, he was very dismissive, the producer. He was like, she was wearing this dress and did absolutely nothing for her when she was on Irish TV, so we got her in this other dress, and we think the dress was a large part of the reason why she won. The dress
won it for her, and they're kind of like, how about her fucking singing and her performance and her talent? And it's kind of like, you're very disparaging about, like, my God, Jesus.
But RT were very keen.
He was producer of picking the dress, so he's like...
But RT were very keen on doing big production things. I think RT wanted to show, look, we're an actual fucking
we're a contender.
Major TV, contender as well. So the production values kind of went through the roof. So then when they were doing it, there was, in a really small town in Cork, they decided that they were going to put the Eurovision on there. They spent millions even on just developing the roads so people could get in there to build the fucking stages, building new hotels, and everything that year went around the Eurovision. There was like billions invested in the country, from the country to just to get people in, and that kind of went on then, and then it went to the point where it's like, oh shit, we're bankrupting the country, we're not getting anywhere near the amount of money back from tourism.
Just for the Eurovision, what's going on? But there was a whole phase there, like from like Linda Martin won in 1992, then we had Niamh Kavanagh won again in 93, and we're on a whole sort of upward trajectory. In 94 we had Paul Harrington, Charlie McGettigan with Rock and Roll Kids, and
I think Ireland as well was like, Europe were discovering Ireland, and it was like, oh my God. And like Boyzone would have been big around then, and all those.
Everything was on an upward slope, and 1994 was the absolute pinnacle because we had Riverdance in the interval. And surely everyone around the world at this stage must know fucking Riverdance, Michael.
Why is it?
Oh, I don't know. Would you like to explain?
Laura actually used to work with people.
Yeah,
Riverdance,
exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah, I used to do they used to do the cabaret and they used to do kind of a rip off of Riverdance. I used to dress up as a fucking children's clown and paint faces and juggle on stage, so I wasn't quite as fancy as the Riverdance people. But yeah, no, it was Gene Butler and Michael Flatley. They did the whole Riverdance thing, which was basically took everyone by fucking surprise. Because up until then, Irish dancing was seen as like something that like kids used to do, and dressed up in these weird little starchy clothes, these little dresses, and they had curly ringlets and these soft shoes, and it was like this traditional Irish dancing thing that like
and then you wasn't really big. Of a farmer's truck while he drives down the street on St. Patrick's Day.
Pretty much. Yeah. But it was seen as this weird little parochial thing, and no one really knew much about it.
It was kind of a cult kind of thing, wasn't it? The people that were into it were like really into it and took it extremely seriously, but everyone else was just kind of like, they're nuts.
Yeah, but it was very stiff and very formal and very sort of traditional, and just didn't have like any kind of sex appeal or any vavavoom.
Well, that people get worried, kind of like if people are sexy kids.
No, adults did it too as well, because there was such a thing as
adults did it too.
Yes, there was such a thing as like Kaylee's, where you could do this whole kind of thing. It's like, I suppose the closest thing to it would be line dancing and stuff like that in America. But Riverdance came along, and all of a sudden you had Michael Flatley emerged in his fucking turquoise silk shirt and just like zoomed across the stage.
Well, it was the music to it as well, it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was all upbeat, and Jean Butler then in her lovely velvet dress, and everyone coming out and they're all stomping and kicking along. And
Jean Butler is American.
Oh my God, what's this? And none of them are Irish, probably.
Yeah, Michael Flatley. I think Michael Flatley lived in America for a long time because he has an American accent.
Yeah. But he lived in Cork now. But it was an absolute. Everyone was just like, oh my, and even Irish people were like, is this actually Irish dancing? This doesn't look like what I was taught in school.
Well, that's because the song that year was called The Rock and Roll Kids, and it was like two old lads playing a guitar, and everything else was like really bombastic and kind of like over the top and kind of like.
And this is a real sort of a sad ballady type
and
thing.
I think Ireland won probably because of the Riverdance that year, because like
everyone was so blown away by Riverdance. They went, Ireland wins, and I think they thought they were voting for Riverdance.
Yeah, because that song was like fucking terrible.
Well, it wasn't terrible. It was a real sad ballad. It was like your wistful,
loss
sad
of youth and stuff.
Yeah,
but I'd say there was a kind of a thing where it's like, right, we're after blowing our money and all this, we can't do this next year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and then they won, and they were like, "Oh God,
I know." Yeah. So then the next year they were like,
"Win the next year."
Yeah, they entered in just any old. They're like, "Please don't let us win because we have literally blown our wad on Riverdance and all of this."
And Ireland would have been in a massive recession in the 90s as well, which was the thing. I think they thought, maybe this could turn the country around.
Like, no, we just spent all our money on Riverdance and Eurovision, and we need to stop hemorrhaging money.
But 96 is probably my favourite Irish entry into the Eurovision. I think it's an amazing song. It still holds up, and only because it's very Irish. A lot of the things that song
everyone just goes for pop music and like just bland kind of like whatever's in the charts. This was actually something that Ireland should have.
Irish music,
this is our music.
With like Emer Quinn, I think she was a music student at the time. And see, this is the thing as well that a lot of people are. Niamh Kavanagh, who won for In Your Eyes, she was working in a bank. She was a bank teller at the time. So when she was finished singing that, it was like, right, go back to your shift in the bank. You have a week off to do the Eurovision and thing. So all these people, this is the thing. Linda Martin was professionally, and obviously Johnny Logue and all that, they're making careers from it. But some of the other people in it weren't. Like Emer Quinn, who won it, she was just a music student at the time. And she had like exams to do, I think, 2 weeks after winning the Eurovision. Yeah. So it was just like, I have to go off and do this and do that. But yeah, the voice song, I think, is... Yeah, it's very metal-y kind of as well.
It's a bit, it's almost got kind of that kind of...
atmospheric...
almost Norwegian, Swedish kind of overtones to it, or you can kind of think it's a Scandinavian kind of almost Celtic-y interface kind of a thing. Because I think, wasn't there somebody from Scandinavia was playing as well?
I don't know. We'll say there was,
I don't know. There's something like that.
But that seemed to be kind of like... When Ireland kind of went, no, we're not.
Yeah, kind of like, stop entering people who are good into this, please. Yeah. Not that I'm disparaging the rest of them, but like that was really the absolute pinnacle, and we were sort of like riding high.
I think they changed
crest.
the kind of the voting system as well, and there was other countries coming into Europe, and it was just getting bigger.
That's
and bigger
the thing, Europe up until that stage was not that it was small, but like suddenly they changed sort of the regulations as to who could enter, and suddenly there was a ton more countries came in.
It was like they were like the Eastern Eastern Bloc, so it was a lot of kind of like, ex-communist countries or people that were after kind of like away from it, so they'd all vote for each other. They wouldn't vote for other countries at all, regardless of what the song was
as we mentioned before, there was a lot of, not necessarily political, but just like neighbourly voting going on.
Yeah, and no one would vote for the UK.
I know, poor England. They had a lot of good songs came in, but everyone was just like, I'm not voting for the UK, they can fuck off.
Yeah, because Europe had like a lot of anti-European sentiments, which is obviously, like, people think this whole Brexit thing is new. It's not. The UK always been very kind of like, we don't want to be in Europe, we don't want to be part of this.
Europe, everybody turned over, everyone went to a common currency, and the UK just went, no, we're keeping sterling. You can fuck off.
Which they were right to, really. I think it's because it fucking fucked up the Irish economy for a while to change over to the euro.
It did, I suppose, yeah. But because the UK were always a bit sniffy about Europe just kind of went, fine then.
Yeah, we're not voting for you. And they had I remember, I suppose that'd be, well, we're not going to do another episode of the UK's entries, but like they had like proper pop stars entered into it with like really, really.
Do they have Katrina and the Waves, or was I?
Yeah, I think dreaming? Katrina and the Waves, like Walking on Sunshine, or whatever the fuck they did, and like the songs that they would have been number one in charts, but thank God, and they were like no points.
No point.
Where it was just like the UK just. But it was unfair on the artists and performers and the country as a whole.
Yeah, they were just like, why does no one want to vote for us? And everyone was kind of like, well, we don't want to say it out loud because it'll make...
But I think Ireland kind of fell into that kind of thing as well, because Ireland, this is what a lot of people in the UK don't seem to realise, Ireland always gets thrown in with the UK and stuff. So when the UK has a falling out with a country, Ireland by proxy has a fallen out
because the trouble is, because we're sort of geographically, we're the other side of the UK, so people kind of forget about Ireland because we're just that little bit out beyond the UK, so they kind of just turn their backs on the UK, and by proxy they turn their backs on Ireland too, and they're just like, hello, sorry, we're still here.
So I think then Ireland kind of went through a bit of a tough time with...
Unfortunately.
It did blow up really in a big way from like the 70s on, because like there was a decent amount of people in the 60s, but from the 70s it kind of like in the 70s like Malta, Israel, Greece, Turkey joined, and then in the 80s and 90s it kind of went even faster. It was like Morocco, Cyprus, Iceland, Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Don't forget.
Croatia, Slovenia, Estonia, Hungary, Lithuania, Poland, Romania, Russia, Slovakia and like North Macedonia just came in all in the like 90s and 80s, and then like a bunch came in 2000 as well, but the weirdest one I find is the newest one that came in 2015, because a lot of them would be like Eastern European countries or kind of a bit further afield, but then in 2015 Australia joined the Eurovision.
What? Yeah, they're allowed to enter, and it's kind of like, what? Why? Europe?
Commonwealth.
Well, I don't know.
That's probably how they kind of... But yeah, and I was only looking at a thing actually when we were looking at some
Israel were in at one stage.
Israel are still in it,
Israel is still in it,
Dan International one year. I think that would have been probably one of the first transgender people, not one of the first transgender people, but one of the first transgender people that was...
That won it. Didn't you win it?
Yeah, he won it and was... I suppose not promoting transgender, but it was like... I suppose nearly an advocate, what'd be the word?
I suppose it's
an ambassador.
Exactly. It just opened up talk and discourse around sort of, issues and all the rest, and it was nice to see as well that people kind of went, actually, let's go ahead and let's talk.
Well, as well in a venue kind of like that with the Eurovision, where it was like, look, you see, it doesn't matter what gender you are, what's your sexuality, it's about the song and that's it, and kind of like people are very accepting and it should be a universal thing, which was great. Like, I mean, and it's I think Dana would have went on being a fairly big star. I think there was another person as well, I seem to remember.
Was there a Russian entry at some stage?
I know, I doubt
that there was a bit of controversy.
I think that kind of like all the things she said was a tattoo or something like that. They might have
that might have been it,
1 year. But there was like, I mean, I suppose it was like fucking then kind of like Ireland hasn't won it since 96 at all.
I really want to talk about one particular entry, because Ireland at one stage decided that they're just going to go, right, okay, we're going to just go the comedy route, fuck the Eurovision, because the Eurovision is a little bit sort of, it's a little bit comedy, it's a little bit hammy, it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek and all the rest, and Ireland at one stage just decided this is who we want to enter. Unfortunately, he didn't qualify, And speaking about...
well, that was the thing as well with it changed the format too.
Because there were so many entries and all the rest.
So there were stages over days, so kind of like people, if they, like judges actually voted on who got into the finals.
Actually perform in the overall and who got broadcast out to Europe and all the rest. So sometimes countries didn't actually get to fully
Ireland
qualify.
Didn't win for a large part.
In the previous year, if you got high enough, you would automatically qualify, and if you were low enough, you had to go through like a preliminary